Gavin?
Oh, no, wait. No, this is, okay. I'm gonna break the table. I know, I don't have one of the little things, that's next. Hey, progress. All right, we are at the Village of Minerva Park Council meeting, February 8th, 2024. We are at 7:06 p.m. We will start with roll call. And we have Councilperson Martin.
Here.
Councilperson McNamara.
Present.
Councilperson Koss. Present. Council President Cameron.
Here.
Councilperson Passion. Here. And Councilperson Grant.
Here.
Awesome. Next we have Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next we will move on to meeting minutes. I have January 25th council meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? Next we have council meeting minutes we have work session minutes for February 1st.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? All right, we have a sign-in sheet on the table. If anybody would like to speak, please sign in on the sign-in sheet, and we will collect that here in about 5 minutes for citizen comments. Next, we will move to village official reports. We will start with Chief Matt Dell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You also have a copy of my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions at the time.
Does anybody have any questions for Chief at this time? All right. Next.
Just one other thing. I would be remiss if I didn't again point out a thank you to the mayor for her work on getting the AED grant. So thank you very much. You guys are very excited to have those in the cars.
Awesome.
That's great.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we will move to our fiscal officer, Mr. Jeffrey Wilczek.
Thank you, Mayor. We've got a few things to bring up. Next week, I will have the accounting system for 23 closed, which will enable me to get the January financial report out to you. I will also have the annual report for 23 completed, and that will get emailed to everybody. And the general fund forecast will get updated, and I will present that at the Finance Committee meeting on March 4th. That concludes my report.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Wilczek? All right. Next, we will move to our engineer's report from Mike Flickinger. This will be uploaded to the website. It's pretty long, so I'm not going to go through all of it, but we have several task orders that are going to be officially closed out. The Westerville City School District, Minerva Park Schools plan reviews, the Lake Master Planning Services, CCTV inspections from 2023 will all be closed out. We are currently working with our engineer to get our maintenance building up and running. We are working with him for our 2023 roadway improvement projects. The 2022 storm sewer improvement project, they continue to coordinate with legal counsel about the final temporary easement. The contractor completed the pipe installation on February 1st. The next major push will be for the contractor to finish backfilling a pipe trench. And the secondary push will be to complete the final site restoration. That's going to require warmer weather, so you're probably not going to see that until this spring. And let's see what else we got. They are going to continue to work on the lake improvement detail design. They are currently working on our CCTV analysis for 2024. And last but not least, no, that was actually it. So we apparently have 2 lake improvement design detail. So he's going to be working on a lot of lakes. And that is Mike Flickinger's report. If anybody has any questions, feel free to email me, and I can get him any questions that are asked. And next, we will move to our legal counsel, Mr. Jesse Shamp.
Thanks, Mayor. Later tonight, we'll have a
training on public records and just general introductory training for new council members during the new business section. Related to legislation in front of you tonight, we amended Ordinance 03-2024. The title still has the final code section, but we've removed that increase. So what you have before you is in Ordinance 02-2024 is a $5 increase, and then 03-2024 are 3 additional $5 increases. The net effect of these 2 ordinances is a $20 increase to license registration fees, all of which will be dedicated to roadway improvements within the village. So just wanted to let you know that had been changed. I had included all of the increases in our draft without catching that council had only asked for $20 worth of increases, not 25. So what you have before you tonight for a final vote is a $20 increase net effect. Second request, Jeff and I just managed to put our heads together on the sponsorships resolution 2024-06. We would prefer if we could hold that until a vote until next meeting, maybe 2 weeks from now. We just want to square up some of the language about where the funds go for sponsorships. So we'll make sure that pool money goes to pool, et cetera, et cetera. So it makes sense to do it right the first time and get it in the resolution so we don't have to come back to you to do that. So other than that, at the last 2 meetings we've had discussion about municipal right-of-way. I just want to reiterate the widely accepted conclusion that municipal right-of-way is owned by the municipality. And so while it may appear to be your front yard, it is not your front yard. And so if there's anything that's interfering with traffic or public safety, the village has the right to remove those objects. And that can happen on a case-by-case basis as complaints are heard. So that's sort of the village's standpoint on that. Feel confident in that from a legal basis. And we'll be moving forward on that based on our discussion at a work session last week that we're going to enforce what is a danger to the public. So that is my report. Happy to take any questions.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Shamp? All right, moving right along, we have our village planner, Mr. Eric Fisher.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Just a quick update. The public and you will see our geese mitigation project, which started today. So there will be folks in the village that are identifiable, and there will be dogs with them, and the dogs are specially trained, and they will be driving out the geese, and they will be here multiple days a week, several times a day, throughout the entire year, and that will keep the geese from doing what they've been doing over the years, which is causing a lot of defecation on our public property, and people and pets are having to walk through that on the sidewalks and the pathways and everything else. So it's harmless to the geese. It essentially drives them nuts, and they will not come back, so which will be good. But it will take a continuation of this season and probably several others to break them. So, and on that note, we also have an admin item. Yes. Barb just wants to get up and talk for a quick second as we discussed today about some website items that she wants to talk to council about.
Hi everyone. Little bit of backstory about the website. The village began working with Municode. They rebuilt the website sometime prior to March 2021, which is when I started here. They have done a great job of establishing things. They're great to work with if we need help on getting something posted or if there's something that doesn't look quite right. That company recently merged with Civic Plus. In 2023, Municode and Civic Plus took over our codification, which means when we pass an ordinance, we send it along to them. They post it on their website, which is linked from our website, and we also have a codification book. They took that over, and it's really made several things a lot easier. It's way easier to find things than it used to be in the village code. It's more searchable, and as we pass things, like any ordinance that's passed tonight, I'll send to them tomorrow, and within a week, it'll be listed on a what has changed section at the front of the code. So even if it's not officially codified yet, people can see what's going on and what the progress is on codification. So that's a great thing. In December of 23, they started migrating the back end of our site to another platform. I'm not an IT person, I don't know what that means. I was coordinating with them and KGT, or our IT folks, about all of that. It went live in late January. Since then, we're learning that some things aren't displaying really the way they're supposed to. Legislation, I don't know if you've looked at it, but legislation just lists the ordinance or resolution number and a link to see the legislation. So if you're looking for something, it's really very difficult to find what you're looking for. Also, some of the contact information on the website is incomplete and not posting the way it should. We lost over half of the forms on our forms directory for permit application, etc. Civic Plus is aware. They were especially aware this morning after I finished my email to them. They are working on solutions. They've been in contact with me since this morning. They've made their engineers aware of some things, trying to keep us from having to duplicate a bunch of work that's already been done. So we're hopeful that that's all going to be resolved soon. We're hoping for grace and patience while we all go through it together. Just wanted to let everyone know, folks who are listening, and all of you, if you come across something that doesn't seem to be working properly, give me a call or email me so I can pass it on to them and we can get it fixed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And that's all I have, unless there are any questions.
Does anybody have any questions about that or anything else?
Do you know about the dogs? Are they going to be leashed or?
They're not leashed, so they are trained dogs that they jump in the water after them, and they harass the geese until they fly off. So that's their job. They do it on land and in the water.
Okay.
Very effective. Otherwise, the geese just get away from people chasing them, and jump in the lake, but we're not going to get them. The dogs prevent that from happening. So
I'm just trying to think about ways to identify those people with people thinking that, hey, now your dogs should just go ahead and swim in the pond.
right. Well,
Unleashed.
these dogs are contracted. You know, they're wearing a vest, so
Okay.
everything is very well marked.
Okay.
The dogs?
Yeah.
The dogs wear this?
Yeah, they have like today the one had an orange vest around it. So just like I think it's just like more of a coat type thing.
A sweater.
I know.
Thank you.
So yes.
All right, our zoning officer is not here, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to email me. And next we will move to planning and zoning, Councilperson Grant.
Yes, planning and zoning met on January 25th. We reviewed the rules and we are going to be planning on voting on them at the next meeting, which I think was just rescheduled. I don't exactly remember
It'd be the 21st.
21st, exactly. That's what I was thinking. Brady Oxender was reappointed chair of P&Z. Some of our green space planning has been finalized, or it's at least getting there. And Chair Oxender was shared that he is doing his best to get some additional funding from the state of Ohio, either for the lakes and or the pathways. But we will have to wait and see.
Perfect. Anybody have any questions?
I run into similar dead ends with my calls at State House for the quit funding as well.
We submitted some stuff, so we'll
Yeah.
see where it goes. We'll keep doing that. Everybody is appreciative to keep helping, as they can.
All right, next we will move to Council President Camera with the MPCA report.
I was not present at the last MPCA meeting, so I don't not have anything to present tonight. I believe their next meeting is the 21st as well, and I believe it's through Zoom this time since this room is going to be used for planning and zoning that night. So.
Okay. I assume they have a holiday. Has that passed yet? Do they have a Valentine party?
They do.
It's probably on Facebook, so
yes,
look it up if you want.
Look it up, yeah.
There you
It'll be
go.
on Facebook.
I tried.
Yeah, sorry.
I assume it's probably this weekend. I probably shouldn't say that because I don't know. All right, next we will move to our village committee reports, and we will start with Councilperson Grant with finance.
The Finance Committee has not met, but as Mr. Wilczek had alluded to, we do have a meeting planned on March the 4th at 5 p.m. That's it.
All right. Next, we will move to Councilperson Cost for streets.
We haven't had another meeting since the last one, but we're still working on the project, but Mike Flickinger said, you're doing okay? Now we're waiting for warmer weather, yay.
All right, next we have Councilperson Martin for services.
Nothing new to report.
All right. And next we have Council President Camera for recreation and parks.
Yeah, so Recs and Parks met last month. We also had a meeting for the pool subcommittee. The pool subcommittee, we've expanded a little bit of their scope of work in that we're trying to look for things that will increase membership and participation in the pool so that it is closer to break even through the pool season. So we have some things planned there. That was followed up by the Recreations and Parks meeting. We spent some time talking about fountains in the lakes, which ones we want, what they have been recommended. I believe we are going to vote for some appropriations tonight to help fund those. So with that passing, we will be installing fountains in the lakes. We also talked about the bid that came back from our landscaping company. We've expanded the scope of work that they're doing. We've added the municipal building to that, which was not part of it. I believe we added the pool to that as well. Basically, all the village property that gets maintained, we have asked them to bid on that, and so I believe we're also voting for that funding tonight as well, to pay for that. This does include, I believe it includes the trees, the village trees, or did we take that out?
No.
Okay, so it will include mulching around the village trees that we own along the green space in the MI section. And then we briefly talked about some additional playground equipment that we might look towards installing later this year. Then the last thing is we did order some more new pool chairs. I believe I mentioned at the last meeting that we were expecting them soon, and they arrived the very next day. And so we now have 50 additional new pool chairs, 5 of which are 20 inches tall compared to 14 inches tall, to help with some of our people that have issues getting in and out of those chairs. So they're easily identifiable. They're bright blue. You can't miss them. And so lots of cool things in the works for the summer and the warmer seasons. That's it.
Awesome. All right, next we have Councilperson Passion for safety.
The safety hasn't had a meeting yet in 2024, but we have had an issue brought to our attention, so I will be beginning with Chief Dunn to see when he is available to meet.
Perfect. And then that will be posted in our normal places. So
Absolutely.
we'll have it posted on the website, and we'll have it on the flashing boards and all that. So, next we will move to Councilperson McNamara for legislation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Legislation, as with the previous year legislation, meets the half hour or so before the second council meeting of the month, and we are planning on continuing doing so. So upcoming legislation, this is stuff we just heard Mr. Shamp talk about.
Perfect. All right. Is there anything you guys want to talk about the village committee reports at this point before we move on? All right. So, mayor's report. I'm going to keep this pretty short and sweet. I know Mike Flickinger is not here, but I would just like to tell him thank you for every single thing that he does for us. We have a list a mile long of things that he is currently working on for us. As I read in his report, the maintenance building, the lakes. He has helped so much with the schools, our CCTV, getting our storm sewers, our sanitary sewers. I probably talk to him more than anybody in this village, I feel like, and probably spend the most money with him, but he has really, really gotten our village back on track for all our deferred maintenance and all of that. So again, he works his butt off for us, and I just want to tell him thank you for getting us, getting all of these projects moving forward. So Other than that, Jason keeps us pretty busy with all the POs that we have to do, so hopefully if this passes tonight, I'll be busy tomorrow doing all the POs to get all these other projects, from the fountains to the landscape and all that kind of stuff underway. So, again, I thank all of you guys for your hard work getting all these projects moving forward. Next, we'll have citizen comments. I have one person that would like to speak, and I will ask Denise Morrison if she would like to speak.
I have piece of paper.
When we get there.
Push the side button. Can you put
Yeah, we're good.
Is it clear? Okay.
Make sure you state your name and address, and we'll start the timer.
Okay, my name is Denise Morrison, 2698 Wildwood Road. What I presented to you is a page out of an application for a fence permit that had been approved. As you can see, it looks like a drawing of a 5-year-old. According to the top of it, it says required information. Other than the lines on the page, I don't believe anything on there is of the required information other than the house and the fence. Okay, so with that in mind, that permit, along with many others that I've received from public records, have some form of misrepresentation or just are not complete and accurate, and they are being approved. So, as we know, applications are submitted and they go to the code enforcement officer. And to the best of my knowledge, this current officer was hired possibly as a subcontractor on or around April 6th of 2021. Around the same time, he became the owner and only employee of his business called the Zoning Guru. The name would imply that the employee or employees are either certified or well-versed as a zoning officer. Minerva Park uses the titles code enforcement and zoning officer interchangeably. The requirements of a zoning officer, amongst other things, are detailed and imperative to the position, where measurements, property ownership, accuracy, and awareness of the characteristics of Minerva Park are taken into consideration when approving permits, amongst other things. The final determination of a permit must be beyond reasonable doubt. The question is, why aren't these fence permits getting the detailed review that they need before becoming a valid permit? In the codes, a permit can be revoked if misrepresentation on any application is seen. On July 5th of 2021, emails circulated between the council members, the village planner, and the mayor, questioning the actions and decisions of the code enforcement officer. These actions created a condition of unreasonable risk or harm, damage to other properties. The officer had a duty to exercise care to prevent risk from taking effect. The code guide should be able to foresee the outcome of his conduct before approval. 3 council members made statements of concern that should have been taken seriously as a request for review or investigation. In either the village officials handbook or in the Minerva Park Handbook of Rules, I can't remember which one, it states that if 3 members of council show a concern or make a request, that it needs to be either a special meeting or something like that to investigate whatever the concern is. The village planner and the mayor dismissed it because of their own agenda. During my review of public records, we have noticed many permits that were not ready for formal approval. The residents of Minerva Park are asking for the code guy, if the code guy has been evaluated yearly and by whom. We're asking for his position to be reviewed based on 1, disregard for details and actions that approved invalid applications. Now, so what I'm here for is to ask for an investigation. I don't know how that would be started. So if you can get me that information, that would be great. So my final question is, Mr. Fisher, what is a legally properly permitted permit?
All right, thank you.
Your time is up.
I don't get that answer?
It's
This
not a
is-
question and
this
answer.
This is citizen comments, not citizen questions. You can ask your questions, but we don't.
But you don't
it's not-
answer them.
It's not the time for that. This is time for citizens to express what they'd like to say.
Comment section is in the name.
Okay.
All right, your 5 minutes has expired,
Yeah,
so
thank
we're
you.
good.
And why did you not respond to my email?
So, your time's up, thank you.
All right. Next, we will go to legislation.
All right, moving to legislation. We are moving to ordinance 02-2024. This is the ordinance enacting municipal motor vehicle license fee pursuant to section 4504.06 of the Ohio Revised Code. This is the first of the $5 increases for municipal projects. And as this is the third reading, I will move for passage.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Is there any debate?
All right. Councilperson McNamara.
Aye.
Councilperson Grant.
Aye.
Councilperson Cost. Aye. Council President Camera.
Aye.
And Councilperson Martin.
Aye.
Councilperson Passion.
All right. The ordinance passes. We now move on to ordinance 03-2024. This is an ordinance enacting a municipal motor vehicle license fee pursuant to sections 4504.17, 4504.171, 4504.172, and 4504.173 of the Ohio Revised Code. And once again, as
Sorry, that's not correct.
On the agenda, we just have to modify,
The
yeah.
title, the text is correct, but the title should have on the agenda 173 struck.
okay, well, in that
Just for the
case,
record,
we
yeah.
shall strike that, 4504.173 of the Ohio Revised Code. And again, as our legal counsel has described, this is the other $5 increments, bringing the total to $20 for municipal projects within the village of Minerva Park.
All for the road.
Yes,
Yep.
road projects,
Yep.
what I should have said rather than municipal. And as this is the third reading, I will motion for passage.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Is there any debate?
All right. Councilperson Passion.
Aye.
Councilperson Martin.
Aye.
Council President Camera.
Aye.
Councilperson McNamara.
Aye.
Councilperson Grant.
Aye.
And Councilperson Cost.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes. Now we move to ordinance 05-2024, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for the current expenses of the village of Minerva Park for the year 2024. So this is to financially cover operations and future planning of the village. This is the first reading. We have intent to suspend the rules that require 3 readings. Alright. So I move that we suspend the rules requiring 3 readings. Alright.
All right.
Seconded.
Any debate?
It looks like the capital outlay had changed.
For the camera, for the flock camera,
Okay.
that's what that would be for.
Sedition. That was my question as well.
Yes.
Any changes since our discussion?
Yes, the only thing that we added to it was the flock camera over at the basketball court.
Alright, and as we have waived 3 readings, or we still?
No, we gotta do roll
Yes,
call.
okay, so let's go.
All
ahead
right.
with that then.
Councilperson Grant,
Aye.
Councilperson Camera,
Aye.
Council President Camera, sorry. Councilperson Martin,
Aye.
Councilperson Passion,
Aye.
Councilperson Cost, and Councilperson McNamara.
Aye. Alright, so that has passed, and now I make a motion that we pass.
Second?
Alright, moved and seconded, any debate on this? There appears to be no debate.
Appropriation.
Yeah, okay, so we're good with that one.
Alright.
Well,
Yes.
this is
Yeah,
an
okay.
ordinance. Right? We have to vote on this, right?
Yeah, we just, all we did is
Just wait for the
Yeah,
readings.
yeah, we just
I
waited.
didn't know if you were debating over there, what was going on.
Well, it's an
I'm not- no,
it's
I'm
an
not listening.
appropriation, that's where
Oh, sure.
the question.
Effective immediately this week.
Correct.
I'm not
Not an
one
emergency,
of
we
these,
got the pass.
so.
Yeah, okay. I'm here now. Okay. Go ahead, do your thing.
Did
I
you
interrupted
vote?
you.
Yes.
No, we moved and seconded.
It is
right?
been moved and seconded, it
So now
has
we
been
vote.
debated upon it.
On the second one. Okay, so this is for the passing.
Yes.
Correct.
Beautiful. All right. Councilperson Grant.
Aye.
Council President Camera.
Aye.
Councilperson Martin.
Aye.
Councilperson Passion.
Aye.
Councilperson Cost.
Aye.
Councilperson McNamara.
Aye.
All right.
Alright, motion passes. We move to resolution 2024-01. This is the resolution adopting the rules of council for the council of the Village of Minerva Park for the year 2024. As this is the 3rd reading, I will make a motion for passage.
I would actually like to ask us to table this, to have
Okay.
one more discussion, since there are several changes.
Okay.
I would second that motion.
There's a lot of
Alright, fair enough.
editorial changes, and I want to make sure everyone's on board.
Alright, well, in that case, I make a motion to table resolution 2024-01. Alright, moved and seconded.
Councilperson Martin.
Martin? It's you.
We have to vote to table?
Yeah.
I don't know, do we,
Do
or
we-
can we just do all in favor?
All in favor is fine.
Okay.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right,
The motion is tabled.
perfect.
So hopefully,
Or the resolution is.
hopefully we can have a discussion about this Thursday in the legislation
Certainly.
meeting. The question would be, do we want to extend it just a little bit, just in case there's more discussion on this? Or do you think the 30 minutes is okay?
There's not a ton legislation-wise right now, so I think we should probably be good.
Perfect.
All right, resolution 2024-01 is tabled. We now move to resolution 2024-06, a resolution to approve the acceptance of sponsorships for the Minerva Park Pool. This is the 2nd reading, however, we intend to waive the 3rd reading and pass as an emergency so that we can have everything coordinated
I think
in
we're
time.
gonna, no, we're gonna read this and then
So we can coordinate on
Yes.
these.
Okay, so we're not going
No.
to.
Just do the second reading.
Yeah.
All right, so we're just going to do the 2nd reading then.
Yeah, just do the second reading, then we'll have a slight amendment on language about where the funds go. So it's clear.
Beautiful, in that case, it's been read a 2nd time.
All right, so all legislation has been read. Next, we will go to old business, but before we do go to old business, if we have any employees that have been here all day that would like to go, because this next part's gonna be a little long, feel free.
I just have a quick
Not
130
you.
slides.
You're not allowed to go. Everybody but Jesse.
It's okay.
All right, so, but, Jesse will chime in new business. Is there anybody that has any old business before we go to that? All right, I actually don't for once have any old business or new business. So, let's go to, oh, you,
Yeah, well, I have new business.
Okay, new
Are you about
business.
to go to new
Go ahead.
business? Okay, so, and I'm sorry to spring this on a regular council meeting, I would rather do this at a work session, but, we did get an email this week from, an employee at one of the schools in the neighborhood who asked if we would consider extending the resident rate for pool memberships to people that work in the village. Since they do pay into our Minerva Park taxes, they do get that 2% taken out of their paycheck. And so I said that I would bring it to council. If there is a favorable opinion of that, we can bring some legislation to our next meeting to vote on that. So
I
just kind
personally
of,
think it's a great idea.
I'm in favor.
Lovely idea.
I feel like that's what Westerville
I
does.
recommend
Yeah.
some content to watch,
Sorry.
to do.
Just trying to catch the game.
perfect. So we'll get some legislation for the next meeting. Probably be best to pass as an emergency, but
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great
Perfect.
question.
okay, I will let her know as well. And then we can also advertise it with the teachers at the school and the
Yeah.
employees at the schools.
That's great.
Well, I think not only teachers at the school, but what about
Yeah, all of our
everybody
businesses.
that, yeah.
Yeah,
businesses
anyone.
and-
Yeah.
Do we extend the same to the officer?
We do, yeah, we actually, the way that it's worded is, residents and employees. Well,
I don't think it does say that, but we can add
are
that.
you sure? Because it does.
Not positive, but
But
if
I
it doesn't, we will
think it was
change
referred
it.
to village employees, not just employees. We need to double check that.
How about employees within the village?
That's what we're
Are
trying
those
to
employed
add.
within the village of Minerva
I
Park?
think that's probably an update to the language is what we'll bring.
Yeah, because it might say village employees.
Yeah,
And
okay.
then it can be
All right, that was it for me.
village people discount.
Okay, village people, okay. Inquiring
I like that
minds
feel
actually.
too.
Everybody ready?
Yes.
You thought I was joking about 130 slides, but they're very short. I don't believe in books on slides, so we'll keep it to a tight half an hour max. Jump in with any questions.
Can you set the timer?
So we have two separate slides. The first is sort of village council powers and procedures. The second is public records, open meetings, quasi-judicial hearings. We'll jump in with village council powers and procedures. This is made easier because Minerva Park is a statutory village, so this just tracks with the Ohio Revised Code. If we ever go the route of a charter, we can talk about tweaking this to what you think better fits the village. General powers, I lied, the first slide is a book. It sets out sort of what your abilities are, which are to acquire property by purchase, gift, appropriation, lease. You can manage property and then carry out any rules or regulations by either ordinance or resolution that would help you fulfill those roles. The village council has the management and control of any finances and the property of the municipal corporation, except subject to certain exceptions outlined in the Ohio Revised Code. What may you do? A lot. I will send this to all of you so you can take a look. Certainly the new council members, I know this has been very helpful. Feel free to call me anytime. Certainly you can regulate buildings. You have the ability to enforce planning and zoning codes, as we just demonstrated last year. You can work on utilities, provide for street maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. So these are very standard things. You already know all that you can do. This just sort of enumerates them in the revised code. This is always a common question. I think it's a good question. I think about it a lot, actually, is what is the difference between something legislative and something administrative? A legislative matter involves forming law, passing law that applies village-wide to residents or those passing through the village. It, of course, has ramifications beyond the people immediately before you. These are all subject to a formal public hearing, which, of course, we meet by giving public notice on our sign and the other places around the village. People that can speak during those public hearings to the ordinance and legislation can include generalized statements. It can, frankly, it can be as simple as, I don't like this law, and here's why. They aren't required to have sworn testimony, cross-examination of anybody. Frankly, somebody can get to the podium and say whatever they would like. An administrative matter, on the other hand, does not require public participation. It's subject to an adjudication hearing, which is open to the public, but not necessarily open to public involvement. They involve the determination of the rights of a specific person, and the decisions at those hearings are based upon evidence. An example of this could be someone that doesn't like a fence permit that's been issued. They can come and have a hearing. The evidence has to be specific, substantial, reliable, and probative, meaning it has to be persuasive. Testimony has to be supported by facts and evidence, and on the rare occasions that we have an administrative hearing, there would be cross-examination, the opportunity for either party to be represented by counsel, and the evidence and testimony would be sworn. So you can't just get to the podium and say whatever you want during one of those hearings. A few quick questions. I will work through these. How many under the Ohio Revised Code does the legislative authority is comprised of? We already know that because we're sitting in one. That would be 6. And there is just a little, just to keep you just focused. It's getting late.
You get it wrong, it comes out of your paycheck.
That's right. Without adopting a charter, can the number of council members in a village be changed? Yes, it can be approved by voters. You yourselves as council or the general public could initiate something that would say we want 7 council members, 5 members, etc. Very rarely happens. I can't imagine why. But qualifications for being on council, of course, you have to reside in the village 1 year immediately preceding your election. Can't hold any other public office or be interested in any contract with the village or hold employment with the said village. By that I mean you couldn't be the zoning inspector and also sit on council. Does village council have the power to fire village employees? They do. You can provide for it. They may be removed at any regular meeting. That would be one that if you have determination that you want to do that, please let me know in advance so that we can get things prepared, because that will inevitably lead to litigation. 4, who has the authority to sign contracts on behalf of the village? It depends. Here, we do not have a village administrator, so the mayor gets to sign those. If we had one, the administrator could sign those under code.
Is it the mayor and it says mayor and clerk, do both of them have to sign it or both of them can sign it?
They both can sign it. The clerk can sign it in very narrow situations, generally related to the just pure like movement of funds. What is the competitive bidding threshold? I actually just had to update this slide. We moved to 75,000. Well done, which is terrific. That is a long overdue increase. It was at 50 for far longer than 50,000 stayed, meaning $50,000 in any real terms.
Yeah, I remember it was 50,000 for a while.
It did not help us. Ordinances versus resolutions.
Jesse?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a question about
Yeah,
that. The previous slide, is that regulated by the Ohio Revised Code, or
It
is
is.
that? Okay.
It is. It is set in code. It was actually just amended in last year's budget bill. They bumped it to 75.
So charter, that could change?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's correct.
Just
Ordinances and resolutions shall be read on 3 different days. This is something else that could be amended by charter. A lot of cities I work with do resolutions or even ordinances just 2 readings, just to keep things moving. You can dispense the 3 readings by a 3/4 vote, 3/4 vote of all members. So if there are certain members not present, you might not be able to hit that threshold. You only have to read by title only unless the council member requests that the entire legislation be read. And then it's all majority vote. This is always the key. I do know that, especially as new council members, emergency legislation is often a point of contention. So what do you mean this is an emergency? Legislation can be passed as emergency with a 2/3 vote. The only caveat is that justification for that emergency must be included in the legislation. And of course the question becomes a lot is, well, that doesn't sound like an emergency to me. And the cold hard truth is, it doesn't really matter what it sounds like to you. If village council believes it's an emergency and votes on it, it generally is, as long as it states it. So I've given away the game here. An Ohio court is permitted to review the legislative determination of an emergency, assuming that the correct number of council members voted for it and it was read on the appropriate times. True or false? False. It would be very hard to come up with an emergency declaration that a court wouldn't uphold if you hit all of the procedural checkpoints.
And really, an emergency means it goes into effect as soon as we've all voted on it, rather than waiting the 30 days
Correct.
from any other legislation.
In effect, it strips the right of referendum from the citizens, and like it or not, that is the purpose of it. It is to allow you to move with the speed that might be necessary for certain legislation.
Like paying our bills and whatnot.
Certainly.
For all of our bills we pay.
Absolutely.
Because I had the problems with these when I first started, before I understood them better.
Yep.
See,
When does an ordinance become effective? This is 30
I
days,
just said it.
unless passed by emergency, which becomes effective immediately. Also, unless it is, of course, this is about ordinances, but resolutions that are about spending or the moving of funds are immediate. Those don't require a 30-day wait. How much notice is required for a special meeting? Just 12 hours, exactly. You can call special meetings, the mayor can herself, or any 3 members of council.
now, our rules of council kind of have overridden that 12 to 24.
Correct, yeah, that's correct. And that, frankly, the legislation, as you'll see here, it bounces. The revised code, chapter 700, is what governs municipalities. It says 12 hours, but the revised code, chapter 121, which is open meetings, it gives you 24 hours. So there's some, you can bounce back and forth depending on what you'd like, but we like the council rules, which I certainly, the more time you can give, the better. How many meetings can I miss before I get removed from council? 2 months. It's absence without valid excuse for at least 2 months. An excuse is I can't make it, and then we vote to say, hey, that's an excused absence. So if they're inexcused, if someone just disappears off the face of the earth, 2 months after doing that, a 2/3 vote of council can remove them.
Our rules of council, doesn't it say something a little different? I believe it does.
It does. So yeah, I've gone off statute, that's right. You certainly have the right to do what, govern your own members as you wish. You are legally permitted to remove someone if they don't show up for 2 months straight. I think we do it by number of meetings.
Number of absences.
Correct.
I was trying to see it real quick. But,
Sure.
no, I can't find it real quick. So we're good.
Sure.
February 12th.
Is that your birthday?
No.
That's my birthday. February 12th is my birthday, public record.
Yes, I just looked it up.
Sure is.
Well, he looked it up. That's how we know. It's
Oh, man.
public record.
Redacted. The general public, this is somewhat relevant, the general public has a right to attend and participate in any public meeting. True or false? False. Yeah, a person is guaranteed the right to attend the meeting, not the right to be heard. If disrupting person waives the right to remain and observe the meeting and may be removed as necessary. Can a council member participate and vote in a public meeting via telephone? Sadly, no. There was a quick window there during COVID that they did allow virtual meetings, which was terrific for the mileage on my car, but not for much else. So we're back to being in person.
I did find it. It's 10 consecutive regular meetings for being removed from council. Repeated absence from attendance.
And well, we are very lenient.
Yeah.
We are very
Basically,
lenient.
miss a
It's
half
about,
year.
what is that? 8 months? 6 months?
Yeah, significant.
5 months, yeah.
I mean,
Does that include?
would work session
Does
count?
that include?
I don't think it would. I think if we say regular meetings.
Regular meeting is a council
Just
meeting.
council meetings.
We might want to update that.
Yeah, that might be one.
All right. We'll add that to the list.
True or false, meeting minutes are not required to be verbatim. That is, of course, true. Just sufficient facts and information to allow the public to understand what informed your decision. Can you prohibit audio and video recordings at a meeting? No. You have to permit it, but you can establish reasonable rules so that they aren't disruptive. Nice. very, very general.
And then,
Is that
probably
it?
get in trouble for saying this, but we also do not have to record them and post them to any site as well.
Correct.
We do that just for, so residents can see it, but it's
Exactly.
not a requirement that we do it.
Correct. All right, we'll move into our second one, which is our public, maybe. Oh, there we go. There. Ohio Public Records, this is also open meetings. I think this is probably what trips up most everyone, especially those that are first dealing with public records generally. Can't get it to switch. Oh, there we go. Great.
Have you tried to shut down and restart?
Yeah.
Help.
Well, I don't know, it's moving on my screen.
And that concludes today's meeting.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Try exiting the slideshow.
Yeah, you might need to exit the show and open it up again.
I see your cursor.
Yeah, mouse just moved. Oh, something happened.
Hey, there we go.
Yay! Okay, it's just not moving here, that's fine, I'll look at the screen. Okay, basics of the Public Records Act. This seems very simple, but it comes up far more often than you would think. A public record is any record kept by a public office. All of this that we'll talk about tonight is captured in Chapter 149 of the Ohio Revised Code. If you're having trouble sleeping later. What is a public office? It is any entity that performs a public service and is supported by public funds. Certainly, village council, planning and zoning, village staff, anything that we ever really come in contact with is a public office. You cannot avoid the duties imposed upon a public office by transferring custody to a private party. This has come up, frankly, somewhat recently. For instance, if you had a piece of body camera footage and sent it over to a prosecutor that was prosecuting the case, that doesn't remove the record from our possession. So you can't just sort of pawn off the record to say that we don't have any responsive records. You can't avoid the duties by transferring the record-keeping function to a private entity. So you can't say, well, we contract with a server or an IT company that provides our server, and so we can't get it, therefore we can't respond. How does one create a public record? It's a three-part definition, each of which is relevant in various scenarios. It has to be stored on a fixed medium, so that a public record is not a conversation. It is something that is on paper, on a hard drive, on video, etc., etc. It has to be created, received, or sent under the jurisdiction of a public office. So something sent in your private life that is unrelated to public duties is not a public record. And three is certainly the one that comes into play most often, is that it has to document the organization, function, policies, decisions, operations, or likewise of a public office. So it has to actually talk about something that we are accomplishing as a village or a body or you as a public office holder are doing. What do you mean stored? Same as I mentioned, you're keeping it. It's a text message. So if you on your personal phone are texting about village business, that is a public record. You should make every effort to get that into a place where it will not be accidental. It'd be subject to our retention schedule. Backups the same way, photographs, anything, a photograph of a ribbon cutting would be a public record if somebody asked for it.
Would social media count?
It does count, that's correct. There is a little bit of gray area there in how are you interacting in social media. Are you doing it in your private capacity or your public? All of the public records law says to err on the side of sunshine. It's called the sunshine law. So presume that if you were elected official or village staff and you were posting on social media, just act under the assumption that it's a public record, and we can, hash it out if we really want to have a fight about it later. Created, received, or sent, that means that the public office or the public office holder has been involved in the creation of the record in some way. Documenting activities, decisions, operations, etc. The shorthand is, was this used by the office to do something official? Or was it notes that informed your decision to make a public action happen? That would be a public record. Frankly, it rules out junk mail, personal emails, etc. as public records. You don't have to worry about those becoming public. Of course, as I said, it's to be interpreted liberally in the favor of disclosure. On the flip side, there are a lot of exceptions, but those are construed fairly narrowly. If you have questions about whether you create a record, either err on the side of caution or just let me know and we can do a quick look. A fantastic database or source is every year or every other year the AG's office puts out the Sunshine Manual. It is terrific. It's frankly where I use most of the time to answer questions about public records. They have almost anything you'd ever think of is this a public record or not, or at least here is some case law that can help your decision. There are some special topics, drafts. We're working on an ordinance back and forth and we're redlining it, so-and-so. Is that a public record? Yes, frankly. Particularly if you have sent it back and forth so that the public office holder is working on it. Personal notes, something you're jotting down, they can be public records. The key distinction here, and this is what comes up more time and again in these cases, is were you just writing it down for your own memory, to organize your thoughts? That is not a public record. But did you create it, for others to see? Did you write it down and then read? I think that makes it a public record. So just keep that in mind as you're, coming into contact with instances where you might want to keep your thoughts organized. Electronic records, of course, yes, they are. A telephone conversation is not a public record, but a voicemail will be. If somebody calls you and talks about public business, that's a public record. If they leave it as a voicemail, that's a public record. All of these. Same with tablets, laptops, smartphones, whether they are public or personal devices. If the business itself is public, that is a public record. It doesn't matter where it's stored or kept. What should you keep? Any records that are necessary to document the organization, functions, policies, decisions, and essential transactions. Basically, you keep anything that has to do with public business, and then we will decide if we can dispose of them according to our retention schedule. And we can circulate that if you haven't received it, just for your information. There's many, many categories of what gets disposed of when based on rolling timelines. Yeah, it's very extensive. It's essential to protecting the village. If you don't have a retention schedule, then you have to keep everything forever. So yeah, it's good to have one in place, which we do. In fact, we had a meeting yesterday where we disposed of 200 boxes of out-of-date records, which is
We have a
great.
records commission meeting twice a year, and this time we'll have 3.
Yep. How long to store? Of course, non-records can be deleted immediately. Personal notes, conversation about anything non-public related. Transitory messages, so this would be a draft. So let's say we drafted a press release and then actually released a press release. You could then delete the draft because the release is out there. Intermediate and permanent, all of these really fall under our retention schedule. Again, if you have any questions, just let us know. It's best, frankly, if it's in your village email account, keep it sorted into a folder if you want, but don't delete anything and we'll figure that out.
Are our emails actually deleted? I mean,
Are they?
yeah, I mean, if we hit delete, is it actually deleting it or?
Not necessarily.
It's in the cloud somewhere.
It's in the
that can
cloud,
be-
that's right. If you want to perform inbox maintenance, that's fine. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
going anywhere, you're not
Right,
permanently.
because of
That's
our records retention,
But it's
it
okay to
is.
delete Best Buy.
What's that?
It's
Sorry.
okay to delete Best Buy.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Again, generally, these are very broad strokes. Generally, the sender should keep the message. That's just a way to cover your own actions. I sent this, I'm keeping it.
Cover your actions.
Okay, caught myself there. How to handle a request for public record, we could ask Barb to give this portion of the presentation. Barb is generally tracking everything. We have a nice database of who's requested what and when. The public itself has 4 basic rights. Prompt inspection, we'll get into what that means. Sometimes it takes quite a bit to dig out the records that are responsive, so it isn't at your fingertips type deal. Reasonable amount of time, copies by mail only if requested, and then copies on paper or on the same medium in which the record is kept. What does prompt mean? Without delay, but of course caveat of case-by-case basis. If it takes time to give me emails from council members, then somebody has to reach out and get those from all of you. So it's not an instantaneous thing. When must it be allowed? Either during regular business hours, or we can provide it to them, perhaps electronically. You can charge for paper copies. You can't charge anyone to just inspect records. So if they're willing to come in and take a look, or if they're willing to accept electronic, you can't charge them for it. If you can't provide it right away, you give a written response. I think we do a great job here. Barb will at least let someone know that we've received the request and it's being attended to. We explain why it might take a little time. And then if there's a problem, let them know. But at a certain point in time, too bad. It takes time to get these things. They're not all just sitting right there ready to be shipped out to whoever wants them. For copies of records, again, it's a reasonable amount of time. It's on a case-by-case basis. If you have any questions, Barbara will reach out to me. If it's something that's maybe contentious or will take a little bit longer than we would like, just let me know. We can work that out. How much can be charged, the actual cost of copying. Certainly can charge for certified copies or for an outside contractor if that's something that the requester is demanding. Can a person make their own copies? They can, but we're not required by law to allow them to do that. So they don't have to have it and go off to Kinko's and make copies and come back. We can require prepayment for copies. This is really a key one. We deal with a lot, and a lot of the cities I work with. It is about existing documents. There is no duty to go out and create records or compile records into one document that would make someone's life, perfectly match up with their request. It is, what do we have? You don't have to bend over to create documents. We'll certainly be helpful. We'll tell people where they can find documents. If it's at all possible, we'll do it, but there's no duty to do that. Any person, which is defined to mean, frankly, any entity, corporation, individual, government agency, doesn't have to be in Ohio. They can say, someone else will pick this up for me, and they don't have to do it in writing. It can be verbal. I've dealt with a lot of these in cities where they'll say, someone will call in and give a request, and they'll say, okay, well, you could just email that to this email. Technically, that is inappropriate. You can make a public records request verbally, and we still have to comply with it every bit as much as if it were in writing. That's a good question there. If it's a journalist, and journalists will typically identify themselves. If they're seeking a peace officer's information, they need to put that in writing so that we can track that and understand why they're doing that. They do not have to identify themselves. We can ask for that information, but only if we tell them, you don't have to tell me, but I'd like to know. It might make this easier. Bottom line is you really can't require identification. Can we deny a request? Absolutely, you can. We have two duties. We have to explain why we're denying it, including a legal citation. I do this fairly often. There are probably about 10 or 12 stock responses. People will routinely ask for, give me every email between these people, and that's it. No, it has to be, that's overly broad. You don't get all of the records of the city. It has to be limited by date, limited by topic, et cetera, et cetera. And then if it was in writing, we have to provide the explanation in writing. We'll almost certainly do this, even if it is a verbal request. Is someone's motive relevant? No. Courts rarely, if ever, have looked at it, but it's never really a basis to deny. Perhaps very fringe issues that you would probably never deal with is if safety is an issue. We might be able to redact information if there's a real threat to public safety. Can it be too broad? Yes. In fact, this is the most often denial of requests. As I mentioned, the number of responsive documents is generally irrelevant. So if they have honed in on a request that perhaps produces 10,000 documents, but it is a specific request that meets every criteria, we'll produce it. It is about the scope of it, seeking more than something specific. It's a shotgun approach, and that's not how this law works. Here's an example. All of the traffic reports on June 11th. It depends on how we keep them. Is that something that we can just pull immediately? Is that a record that we have? If it's kept by driver name and not by date, we might not be able to comply with that, so we can't pull it. All litigation files or anything, all fence permits. Send all of those overbroad. That's a category that's not a document. So we will deny that accordingly. Same with 911 calls or all traffic reports. All emails or texts regarding by specific persons for an entire work period. That would be a complete duplication of files. That is not a document. Emails or texts between two employees. If we don't organize them that way, that's not really a request. Outlook has made that a little easier to obtain, so we could sort by from Jesse to Mayor, but it's still something worth looking at because that is a fairly broad request. All records that pertain to me, that's a classic. That would be overbroad. We don't typically sort documents by Jesse, so we would not respond to that. Same with dates. If we don't store them by date, and of course we'll handle this. I'll sort of handle this with Barb. If you assert an overbroad offense, you have to tell them, feel free to narrow this. You could perhaps pick a date, or perhaps pick an actual event that you're seeking, or an address. We'll happily comply with that, and let them know how we maintain them. There are exceptions to what is a public record, and then one catch-all. Certainly anything sealed pursuant to a court order, social security numbers, that's based on just our generalized expectation of privacy. Trial prep records, this would hardly ever come to you, but it would be something if I was preparing for trial or maybe insurance counsel was. All of those are not public until after the trial. Security and infrastructure records, so this would be anything that would, say for instance, our records that would shield our IT from cyber attacks would not be a public record. Same with the building, the building code to get in. I don't even have one of those. So, catch-all exception. This is the definition of public records does not include records prohibited by state or federal law. Certainly attorney-client privilege or any state or federal law that says flat out this is not a public record. HIPAA. Constitutional right to privacy, which is pretty ambiguous privilege, Americans with Disabilities Act. How do we deal with these exceptions? You redact whatever would be subject to those, magic marker or PDF it, make it clear that we did make a redaction, and then provide a citation to that redaction. What are typically public records? Settlement agreements are. Oftentimes settlement agreements with municipalities will include language that says can't disclose this. That language is frankly void as a matter of law. You can. They are public records and we have to provide them. resumes submitted, personnel files, background checks, including polygraph results, and then any internal disciplinary records and investigations, as long as they aren't ongoing. What are non-records? Personal emails, as we already discussed. If they don't talk about public business, they aren't a public record. But keep in mind that if we start requesting public records from you and you happen to start shipping over emails that come from your personal email account, someone at some point is going to say, well, how do we know that we've received everything from that personal email account? They obviously blend their personal and private. So best practice is just don't do it. Home addresses, we can exempt those. Where do we send the mayor's paycheck? Redact. It doesn't document any business of the village. The business is the amount she receives in her paycheck, not where it goes. Personal calendars and appointment books, same thing, as long as they aren't public related. Personal correspondence, same as emails, no different. If someone applies for a position and we send it back to them, their resume, that would not be a public record because we don't keep them. Certainly, police officers are subject to a fair bit more of redactions based on their safety and their, what can happen if their home location is released. There's a revised code provision exactly for that redaction. Same thing. Certainly, not necessarily relevant here, but if you have a plainclothes division or undercover, we don't release the photographs of those officers for obvious reasons. Personal documents, all resumes are public records, all evaluations are public records, EAP records, I'm actually blanking on what an EAP record is, but that would not be a public record. Follow up with that. Fitness for duty examinations, that falls under a medical record almost certainly, so we do not release that. This is all collective bargaining. What happens if we don't respond to public records requests? We might have to pay $100 per day, is now capped at $1,000, and then attorney's fees. Someone will typically file this through the Court of Claims. That's the typical court that handles these. And we'll get on a call and mediate it, and the judge will make a decision. What happens if we destroy the records? Same thing, capped at $1,000 fine. And then we move on to open meetings. We're in the home stretch. We have to hold our meetings in public with certain exceptions so that citizens can be allowed to observe our work. Again, liberally construed to achieve the goal, and exceptions will be narrowly construed. You can go into executive session, but strict rules apply. Again, there are local ordinances, charters, and bylaws that can restrict it even further than sunshine laws. So we operate under the Ohio Revised Code because we don't have anything more specific, but if you wanted to limit the reasons we go into executive session, you could do that. City Council, Planning and Zoning, Board of Zoning Appeals, all are public bodies. Generally doesn't apply to individuals. It could apply to a private body if organized by statute and received funds. So, for instance, if we had a community improvement corporation, sometimes their public bodies would be, their meetings would be public. It has to be a prearranged gathering of a majority of the body to discuss or conduct public business. Here we would require 4 folks to get together, prearranged, sort of, we're all going to meet in the Kroger aisle to discuss this. What if we're not talking about the meeting? It gets really fuzzy. The best, operate inside of safety. Don't talk about business if there's more than 2 of you together. One-on-ones are fine, but you get more than that, it's getting iffy. What is a quasi-judicial hearing? Relevant. We had one of these about 2 years ago. In these roles, you as council members are not technically sitting as council members. You're sitting as quasi-judges. A quasi-judicial hearing is not subject to an Open Meetings Act provision, so there is no requirement to notice that meeting. There's no requirement to allow the public into the meeting. There's no requirement to allow public comment. You are sitting as a judge. The party that has an issue brings their case. They can have counsel if they want. They cross-examine the other party. Back and forth we go. Evidence is introduced into the record, and it is all sworn testimony. It is very straightforward. It's really not a question. One-on-one combos between 2 members are not meetings, but you can't do, run down the line. David can't talk with Kathy out in the lobby and then talk with Stacy in the kitchen and then Councilman McNamara, all to come to some conclusion that they all get together and make a decision. So no, hopping between meetings to avoid that intent.
Isn't it, though, as long as you keep it under a quorum, you're still okay?
Unless you are doing it with the intent of, would you vote yes on this? Okay, you would. Now I'm gonna go talk to the next one. Yes, you would. Yes, you would. And so you're hopscotch, you're jumping around to get, yeah.
But you can ask for straw polling, right? If they all, in public, they can say, how do you think you're going?
Oh, certainly, in public, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, good caveat. This is meant to keep you from doing it in private. If you're out here in public, which way is everyone leaning, looking for some control? Absolutely. Work sessions are public meetings, we comply with that. Executive session is where we can exclude the public. We have to, before we move to enter executive session, give those reasons, and I'll quickly run through those, and then we'll wrap up. You can invite anyone who would like to attend that executive session also. It isn't limited to just council members. Obviously, you have to be in person, in a public place. We all will do that here. You have to enter an executive session from a public meeting and then come back into a public meeting so that it's demonstrated in the record. We have our regular meetings at regular intervals, second and fourth Thursday, just give the time and place. Special meetings we've discussed. The minutes have to convey enough to let people know how we made our decision. Executive session minutes do not need to include any detail, just the general subject matter, which is typically what we move for in the motion to enter executive session. Attendees of public meetings, can we remove disruptive folks? Absolutely. Can't prohibit videotaping, but can require it to be quiet and unobtrusive. What happens if we don't follow these rules? A person can file an injunction up to 2 years down the road to say that you were violating the Public Meetings Act. They have to show irreparable harm, prejudice. That is presumed from the violation. So it's a tough hill for us to climb to say, you weren't actually harmed by that. Formal action taken by council is invalid unless adopted in a public meeting. An invalid notice would strike the action. So if we don't notice the meeting properly and we fired someone, that firing is stricken. Same thing, $500 civil forfeiture if found in favor of the challenger, and then award of attorney's fees and costs. Can only escape the fees if we would have believed that we were not violating the act and believe that the conduct served public policy. Again, tough road to climb. 8 express reasons, very quickly here. It has to specify the personnel-related matter. It can't say, I move to enter executive session for a personnel-related matter. It has to say, to discuss the promotion, to discuss the firing. It doesn't have to say the person's name, but it does have to specify the action. Property, you can enter exec to talk about purchasing property on behalf of the village or selling property for that matter. Again, that's to avoid, if revealing information would give competitive advantage. Litigation, this is pending or imminent court action. Courts have interpreted this fairly narrowly. It needs to be pretty certain that someone has said, we're preparing the paperwork to file suit against the village. That would allow us to go to executive session. Or if you all have made the decision to proactively pursue litigation against an outside party, we can do that. Collective bargaining, to discuss the bargaining strategy. Confidential matters, or any matter required to be kept confidential by law. This would go back to those state or federal statutes, HIPAA, security arrangements, or IT contracts, that type of thing, something we want private to be fine. This is important. You absolutely cannot disclose what you learned in that executive session, and which is confidential or privileged. That's a violation of the ethics law. We can discuss, if you have questions while you're in executive session, as well, is this confidential? Raise it while we're sitting in there and we can address it then. Or I can say, I'll get back to you shortly if there's a question about it. Just err on the side of not talking about what is discussed in executive session. If it is leaked, that waives our privilege and that creates a whole host of problems about what everybody talked about, not just maybe what you relayed on. We did it. That was a lot.
Good, thank you.
Now, does anyone have any questions?
That's right. And again, I'll circulate both of those. Take a look. Call me anytime. Happy to find out.
3 a.m.
Anytime. I might not answer.
Okay, I'm gonna go over this one more time. Does anybody have any old business or new business after all that?
I do want to bring up one other thing.
I knew I shouldn't have done that.
Sorry, real quick, just because we had some emails this week about the sign boards, so I'm gonna talk about that one. We've had other emails too, but, the sign boards and at the Black Sycamore Pond, I have talked with that residents, and because in between the email and my response to her, the sign was put up, and.
We weren't fast.
Yeah, and, she is okay with the way it looks. She was afraid it was gonna block a lot more of the view, and, so, obviously, I live over on that side. Also, I had objections to it the first time we talked about it a couple years ago, but I think it looks okay. Not everyone thinks it looks okay, but I think it will work.
Well, in
at the
fairness,
time.
I think we can paint the poles or do something because
Yes.
it does stick out like a sore thumb. I think there's some prettying that we can do to it.
Yes, so.
And I'm all ears for that.
I did assure her that we are looking at landscaping and things like that to go around it to help with that as well, so.
I'm in complete agreement to that.
And told her there would be a new fountain out there soon too,
Yeah.
to look at.
I didn't say this earlier, but I do have some more, bids, estimates, whatever, on fountains from another company just to compare, and I have not had a chance to look at them yet. I just got them this afternoon. And that is all I have for old business, new business. Anybody else? Okay.
Move to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I hope not.
All right.